If cash flows are not conventional, there exists multiple solutions to the equation that defines IRR. Hence, the concept of IRR itself is ill-defined, which is a fancy way of saying it doesn't mean crap. If there are two solutions, which one is the internal one? So if cash flows are conventional, you should not ever use IRRs. Are not conventional, you should not ever use IRRs to make decisions. And I'll give you examples of how that could happen. But let's do our implementation first. I'm going to use IRR, pick all the clean flows. That's it, that's the number, okay? It's not any more complicated than that. And you cannot calculate IRR by hand. You're going to have to use, if you can do it by hand if you use trial and error methods, but Excel actually does that for you using its iterative way of doing things. If you have a financial calculator, it will calculate it for you. But as I said in the beginning of class, assume I know nothing about the financial calculator you're using, because there isn't a single kind. Years ago, I had to use Texas Instruments because they made us take the first portion of the CFA exam, and that required the Texas Instruments calculator. But when you have Excel, why do you need anything else? All I have to do is change my inputs. Done. Now, let me give you an example of multiple cash flows. Let's say at the end of this, let's make this 40,000. It's a negative 20,000, okay? Let me make this a little bit less. This says IRR is 9.688, but this is not a conventional cash flow. So it could be possible that there are multiple solutions. To kind of figure that out, the IRR function technically has two arguments. The first argument is the set of cash flows, including year zero. The second argument is the starting guess. It's an optional argument. If you don't provide anything, Excel assumes something and it works with that. But let's start with zero. Let's see if we get a different number from 9.6. They're not. Let's use a different number. How about negative 0.9? What do you know? That also solves that equation. In fact, if I put negative 56,279 as the cost of capital, my NPV is going to be almost zero. The reason it's not exactly zero, I'm rounding up things. Or so both of them give an NPV of 0. Which one is internal? This example is rather extreme. There's a big difference between the two solutions. So you would never think of negative 56% as a rate of return, but sometimes those solutions are relatively close to each other and are of the same sign. So which one is the proper one? So as soon as you have non-conventional cash flows, do not use IRR as a decision criteria. It's a conventional, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, if you're going to make decisions with the IRR, for standalone, except if IRR is greater than your cost of capital. In fact, in such cases, IRR being greater than cost of capital necessarily implies NPV is positive. And if NPV is positive, IRR is greater than your cost of capital. This symbol is a logical symbol. It means if and only if. A implies B and B implies A. I know you guys probably have never taken logic. Oddly enough, that was an elective course for our senior year in high school. There was only one elective available. In fact, half the semester, the elective course was in sociology, the second half, mathematical logic. For mutually exclusive projects, accept the project with the highest IRR, provided that IRR is greater than the discount rate. We're basically saying pick the one with the highest IRR, but make sure that the one you picked was acceptable on its own to begin with. It may be better than other projects, but by itself, it may not be good enough. Another problem with IRR, and projects are mutually exclusive, and this is independent of conventional or non-conventional. NPV decision rule and IRR decision rule may give conflicting decisions. For standalone, they will give exactly the same decision. If a project is acceptable by itself by NPV, it is acceptable by itself using IRR, provided the cash flows are conventional. Let's do an example. Let's say I'm going to make A to be this one. not 25. And we're gonna have NPV and IRR. We already have those for project A, 82, 88. And IRR is 18.69%. Now let's do the same thing for project B. It costs me 5,000, 2,500, 2498, and 3592. According to the NPV rule, which one of these projects that I would pick? A or B? Remember, these are mutually exclusive.